if someone has contributed to the pension insurance system and are leaving Germany, they should be able to get this.
Yes, exactly. So if you said there are two categories, I will even say three. So first,
Okay.
German EU citizens and UK citizens.
Hi, everyone. In today's video, we're going to talk about deregistering from Germany and getting your rent and physician back, which is a huge part of the things that you pay towards the social contributions in Germany. I'm going to talk to Camilo from Fundsback. So welcome, Camilo.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm very thankful for the invitation.
Camilo, explain to the audience a little bit about yourself and what does Fundsback do?
Sure, gladly. Yes, as you said, I'm Camilo. I'm the operations manager at Fansvec. This means that I'm in contact daily with the customers and partners, and my job is to ensure that their Fansvec experience is the best. We also, as you mentioned already regarding the registration, we also work closely with a sister company of us called registration.de.
So let's start with the main question. We want to leave Germany. And obviously, once you come to Germany, there are so many processes, so many things that you need to consider. But if someone is leaving Germany, again, it's not that easy. You need to follow a lot of steps, a lot of things. So once, if someone is deciding to deregister, why is it necessary that they deregister, and what is necessary to do once someone decides to leave Germany?
Yes, totally. As you said, leaving Germany is not just booking a plane ticket and saying Auf Wiedersehen. Ideally, you should inform yourself with some time beforehand to make sure that you make everything that is important, that you make it. Otherwise, it can give you headaches in the future, or it can also even cause you some trouble. Some examples, for example, you should, of course, make sure that you have an Abmeldung. This will allow you to then cancel your GZ, Kindergeld, all of this. And then also there's positive things, for example, as we'll talk later about, you can have the right to obtain your pension bags or other perks. So that's why it's very important to inform yourself.
Okay. So let's talk about it step by step. So let's say if someone is leaving Germany, so perhaps you can share the steps that they should follow. If there's a process that they can do, for example, let's say they are about to leave in the next month. So what can they do concretely?
I'll guide myself on the process that our friends from the registration have. So they have a checklist. And there, for example, you should start around a month earlier, a month before you leave Germany. You should start with the proper planning. Let's go ahead with Meldung, the deregistration. For this, you're legally allowed to do it 7 days before you leave. The most of the Bürgerämter of the townships, I think it's called townhalls, it's called in English.
Yeah,
Rathaus, exactly. And you can do it online, which is amazing, but also other ones do not allow it. So you will have to check it either if it's possible or not, and then get your appointment on time. Fortunately, especially in the big cities, it can be quite hard to do this since, we all know who live in Germany, that can be pretty much
a lot of time just to get an appointment,
Yes.
obviously. Yeah.
So but getting this is crucial since, as mentioned before, if you don't have this, you might have issues with stopping your Rundfunkbeitrag.
Obviously, it is one of the biggest headaches most expats.
Exactly. Yes. If you're not German, you usually are quite annoyed that you have to pay this, especially because you probably will not consume the things that are funded with this, radio and television programs. And you have to pay it every month usually. And if you don't have, if you don't do the step of canceling it, actually will build up, and then you have to pay it even though you already left, which of course is not nice. Furthermore, you also should contact the authorities regarding the Kindergeld, for example, if you obtain a Kindergeld, so that they will stop transferring you the money. Because if you think you are smart and then you will just keep getting the money even though you are out, course, they will later come back to you with a case, and at least you will have to pay everything back. And if you're unlucky, for example, I know a case, the person didn't stop the Kindergeld, and then when they were returning to Germany, they were stopped by the police at the airport. He then could, let's say, handle it without anything bad, but he, of course, had to pay it. And I think no one of us would like to be stopped by the police when we're...
Yeah, it's difficult situation to be in.
Exactly. So those are some of the steps that you should then take care. Then, as I mentioned, not only, let's say, unpleasant things might happen when you leave Germany, but also there's some nice things. For example, it's good to keep in mind that you can also obtain a pension refund if you qualify for it. This is also very useful to then start checking your eligibility when you are leaving Germany, so that you can do everything with time and apply at the correct time so that you get it as early as possible if you are interested in it.
As you said, once you're leaving or once you decide to leave, one of the good things that you can do is get your rent and physician or your pension contributions back. So let's just talk a little bit about the pension contributions. What are they, and why is it necessary for people to pay this rent and physician or the pension insurance?
Yes. So as everyone knows that has worked himself or herself in Germany on their job, which succumbs to social security, quite a notably chunk of your money that you hardly work for is deducted before you even see it and move then to the German pension insurance. And this is 9.3% from yourself and 9.3% from the side of the employer. So in total, around 18.6% of your gross income is then forwarded to the German pension insurance. Of course, this is a good thing, actually, at least from my side, from my view, since it makes people at least have security in the future. But there also can be some drawbacks. For example, if you leave Germany before you have achieved the minimum time of 60 months before you are even entitled for a German pension, you then will have basically give thousands of euros paid into there for nothing because you will not have an entitlement. So this, for example, of course, is not a nice thing.
Let's talk about a situation where an expat is coming to Germany. They have lived a certain amount of time and they're leaving. They came as a student or whatever, and they contributed less than 60 months of pension contributions. So is it possible for them to get this pension contribution back when they're about to leave Germany?
For the most of the cases, from the information you have gave me, yes. I would say yes. Of course, each case has to be checked individually.
But generally speaking, if someone has contributed to the pension insurance system and are leaving Germany within 60 months, they generally should be able to get this, right?
Yes. Also, if they have contributed over 60 months, depending on the nationality.
Okay. So I always thought if you are contributing more than 60 months, then you are not able to get this back. So maybe you can explain a little bit how or which aspects play a role on whether you're able to get this contribution back and what plays a role in you not getting it.
That's very nice that you mentioned this because actually, probably it's the thing I hear the most, the misconception I hear the most. I don't know who put this rumor out there that if you have contributed more than 60 months, you're already out for sure. And it applies for some cases, but I will start from the scratch. Let's say, as I said before, it depends heavily on the nationality. Let's take the example an Ukrainian person, since now, of course, there are many Ukrainian immigrants in Germany, and I guess some of them will leave Germany in the future. Ukraine and Germany do not have a social security treaty, which means we have, so if someone comes from Ukraine, comes here, works even for 65 months, then they can apply after they leave. They can apply for a German pension refund. How does it work? So there are some criteria. Nationality, as we said, Ukraine works well. What doesn't work is if you're German, you are usually not eligible. There are some cases, for example, if you already have reached retirement age and have less than 16 months, you might be eligible. But for the vast majority of cases, it doesn't apply. The same applies then for EU nationalities and also UK. So those we can, in most of the cases, we can exclude them. And then we have, let's say, a second category, which are countries that have a social security treaty. From those, the biggest are the US, Brazil, India, Australia as well, and some others. We have a list on our website. You can check it out. And for those countries, this, what you said, applies. So if you have contributed more than 60 months, So if you have earned the right for a German pension, you are not eligible. You will not have a chance of getting a pension refund. But of course, you will have the chance, or you have the entitlement of a pension when you have reached, of a German pension, when you have reached a retirement age.
Let's separate multiple things here. So there's one category in which Germany doesn't have this specific agreement. So in your example, Ukraine and other
Yes.
countries, I'll put a list and a link to your website here, where you can get your pension back even if you have contributed to more than 60 months,
Yes.
right? Then there is situation when you're German and there are certain other countries where Germany has an agreement. In those cases, if you have contributed 60 months or less, then you can get your contribution back. If you have contributed more than 60 months, you cannot get your contribution back because you are eligible to get your pension once you are retiring in that specific country to get your pension from Germany.
Yes, exactly. So if you said there are two categories, I will even say three. So first, German EU citizens and UK citizens. For those, we can more or less categorically exclude them all from scratch. Then second are these social security treaty countries. For those, it works very well if you haven't earned the right for a pension. So if you stay below the 16-month threshold. And then the third category, which is the rest of the world, it doesn't really matter how much you have contributed here.
Okay, so in the third category, it doesn't matter how long you've lived, as long as you're not a German national and you go back to that specific country or wherever you go, when you're leaving, you can get your pension back.
Yes, exactly. When you're leaving Germany and are not, also, it's very important to point out, you're also cannot reside in the EU, European Union, or in the UK as well.
Okay. Let's say if someone is eligible, according to the conversations that we
Yes.
have, to get their pension back, how does the process usually go?
I will separate for clarification between the process at Funspec and the process if you do it yourself. So if you do it yourself, let's start with this, you then will need to gather the documentation from the German pension insurance website to the Antrag, the file, the form, thank you very much, which is around 14 pages. Then you will, yes, it's quite hefty. Yeah, like they had the bureaucracy. And also will be very useful that you find out at which is the sub base, let's say, of the German pension insurance, who is the responsible for your case. Because for your information, as you guys might know, Germany is a federal nation, so republic. So we do not have everything centralized in Berlin or wherever. And also the German pension insurance has different bases.
It's not centralized. There are different provinces, different states, and those are separated based on different states or provinces.
Yes, more or less. But unfortunately, this will be even easy. There is a very quite complicated internal way where they decide who goes to which one. So it's already quite of a hassle to find out which one is responsible for you. And what the disadvantage of this is, you send it to the wrong one, they will even write you wrong one, try again, more or less. Or if they're friendly, they will forward it, but it will usually steal or cost you some weeks or some months, since they're also very overworked. So you will need to find this out and get certain documentations that you need to prove that it's you and where you live, and then fill this all out and send it to them. And then you will, usually they will contact you then via physical mail. You of course need to answer to their queries and all of this. And so this is the possible step. Also, there's in the internet, there are some places that say how it's done. There's of course the possibility that to hire a service like Funspec, where the idea is that if you don't want to deal with any of this, you can then get it done, but with legal and professional help. So if you would start the service, for example, at Funspec, we will start with the eligibility check. So you file a little, you gave us some information about yourself, which we need for being able to give you first evaluate if you will even will be eligible. Then if it is green, if we think, yeah, you have in principle, you have the right, we will then check on your behalf at the German pension insurance, reach out to them by an external lawyer that works with us. And we will then gather your information and provide you with this information and explain to you how much you will be entitled to get. You can then also check it out with help of the lawyer to see if everything is correct. And if you then decide to go ahead with Fundsback, they can proceed. Of course, if you say, okay, I don't want to go ahead further with Fundsback, you at least have the information about your contributions. You know how much you will get back. And also, for example, if you are already entitled for a pension, then we will tell you about how much the pension will be around and when you can expect it.
For those who are interested, there's one clarification that needs to be done. You have to come to the conclusion yourself that you want to go with a service or not. So it depends on you. You are free to choose a service or go to the route of doing it yourself. So if you decide to go with a professional service, you can go with services like Fundsback. And only once you decide that you want to go with the service, only then you can go to these services and get help from a company like Fundsback.
Exactly. Yes. Just as you said, also to build further on this, there might be some cases, depending on your personal preferences and life situations, where maybe pension refund is not the best deal for you. For example, if you left Germany, you will return, and you are a person who prefer to have a pension rather than obtaining the money right now back. Yeah. It might be better to leave the money in there so that you can, when you return to Germany, you can build on there and work again towards the 16 months threshold for your pension. Perfectly as you say, services like Fundsback cannot take this decision for you. You should inform yourself and to see what's the best choice for yourself. There's also, in case that you would like professional help, there's something in Germany called Rentenberater. They have a license for this, and they will be able to tell you exactly the different scenarios, and then you can choose. But then if you have decided that you would like to go for the pension refund way, you can, as mentioned, do it yourself. Or if you then decide to go for a service like Fundsback, how we do it then, we will then present you, we will need some little information about yourself, about which are important for presenting your case. And this usually takes around half an hour. And then later we also need some documentations regarding some 2 or 3 documents regarding yourself, which we then will guide you which ones we need. And actually that's it. Of course, yes.
Which documents are required for someone to get their pension?
Yes. So in general, you need to prove your identity and your residency. That's the minimum. And then depending on your individual case, if you have, for example, if you have raised children in Germany, it's also important to note that what you can get back is contributions that were made directly by you. As I said beforehand, 9.3% gets deducted directly from you, the other 9.3% from your employer. What was paid into the system on your behalf by your employer is not deductible, is not refundable to you. Exactly. So as well, for example, if you obtain Social Security when you lose your job, the first months, also pension contributions are made on your behalf. So you can count on this, but if you are obtaining a refund, they will not be refundable. That's why, depending on on your individual case, the documentation varies to some extent.
Okay, so let's go to a specific case. I'll give you a scenario and maybe we can discuss it. So let's say if there's a single person who came to Germany, they did a job for, let's say, 59 months. They are single. They never had any, let's say, Arbeitslosengeld or whatever. They just did their work for 59 months. They contributed everything that they could, and now they are leaving. and they want their pension back. So how should they proceed?
So they should definitely make sure to get the Abmeldung actually at the beginning. So I will start even step before, because it is very useful later improving that you left Germany. This said, returning back to just a pension refund, you should contact the either a service provider like Pfandwerk or German pension insurance. I would say right after you're leaving Germany, or if you already know I will be leaving next month, you can already do it
Mm-hmm.
for getting your contribution times.
Okay.
If you do it with, for example, with us, it usually takes around 2 to 3 weeks until you get all the results. But if you're just reaching out to German pension insurance by yourself, depending on the case, depending on the exact branch and how much work the person that's handling your case has, might take some weeks or months. So that's why it's important to do it relatively early.
Okay.
And then, of course, either prepare yourself for it, or if you do it then with Pfandwerk, we will guide you through it. So time does count, but also for clarification, you need to be eligible 2 years after your last contribution to the German pension insurance. So it's not if you leave today for your home country or another part that is not even the UK, you will not be able to obtain the pension refund right away. You will need to wait 2 years for submitting the case. But of course, as it might take time, especially if you do it yourself, we advise to just ask earlier for all of this information, since it also will help you to make an informed decision, because depending on how much you're actually entitled to, you might count on this money for the future, or you might just say, okay, it's not even worth the hassle, or it's not even worth hiring someone like Pfandwerk. For this reason, we recommend to do it to start, around when you're leaving Germany.
Let me get it clear. The refund process takes 2 years. So once you apply for a refund, it can take up to 2 years. Or are you just eligible to apply after leaving Germany, after 2 years of leaving Germany?
Yes, the later one. So you're eligible to start the process to apply 2 years after leaving Germany, or better said, 2 years after your last contribution to the German pension insurance.
So in that case, let's say if someone is leaving Germany, why would it make sense if they're about to leave Germany and then apply? Is there an upper limit? For example, let's say if someone leaves Germany, then they have to apply, or they can only apply after 2 years. So is there a limit after which they cannot apply?
No, likely not. Not a direct, not a limit imposed by German pension insurance, but also, thanks for mentioning this. It's also one thing why I personally think it's just the smartest to take care of it not too late, because so we have to keep in mind that in Germany, the pension system, unfortunately, the money that you contributed is not invested or anything. So it's not working for you. Of course, you're gaining the rights for a pension later. But even in the case that you have contributed less than the minimum threshold of 60 months, this money is not working. So it's just laying there. So if I do it right away, as soon as possible after 2 years, of course, the inflation wouldn't have affected me as much as if I wait 10 years or longer. And as you also mentioned, how much the process takes, of course, is also people are always very keen to know it. The process varies on some factors. First, individual factors, so how complicated is your case or not, and as well on the branch of the German pension insurance handling your case.
Okay.
I can maybe quote, or I can give you from our experience 2 cases that display this quite well. So we, around 2 months ago, we had our own record. Let's say we beat our own record in having the fastest payout yet. It was 10 days after the customer, after we had provided everything to the German pension insurance, so after the submission, the customer already she had the money into her account. Of course, we were very happy, and she was quite surprised that it worked so fast, since we also...
But she had already left Germany, or her last contribution was at least 2 years before
Yes,
she
this
applies.
is a fixed thing. There's no way to avoid this. Yeah.
So this is an interesting point. Like where I usually thought that there is an upper limit to, let's say, if someone left Germany 4 or 5 years ago or 10 years ago, they could not apply for this. So it's the other way around. So you need to have left or had to submit your last contribution at least 2 years prior to applying for it. So is there a way, for example, if someone is leaving right now, can they contact you and you apply for them right now, or you get their documents, or does it make no
And
sense?
it makes sense in the way that, yes, so we will then get for them the information from the German pension insurance. With this, then they can check. Actually, so there's also a very important point. Unfortunately, even in Germany, where you would think everything is very organized and it's rightly, but even here, crucial mistakes happen.
Okay.
And what can happen is that your employer did not forward that all your contribution times to the German pension insurance. So that's why also when we gather on your behalf the information, we present this to you, black and white. You can see all of your contribution years, and we ask you, please double check it, verify. And that's why it's also very crucial for people who like to leave Germany that they keep all of the documentation from their former employer. So all your pay slips, all of this, because then you can check. And it's not very uncommon that actually times are missing. Then we need to go then in our case, the external lawyer then will write on your behalf to them and explain to them, actually, your time is missing. Please check them, reach out to the employer and add them. And that's why it's very useful to have your pay slips. And then when the German pension insurance reaches out to them, they will then add this times to your case, which of course will either increase your pension or increase your pension refund.
So let's talk about your fees. So how is it structured? How is it based on the amount that you get? Is it a fixed amount? And let's say if someone applies and they're leaving right now, they apply with you, how this fee structure would be?
Yes. So the fees of Fundsback are, first of all, are no win, no fee. So only if a fee will only arise when the case is successfully through. As mentioned, can take some time. So that's why we think it's just fair not to ask you for an amount beforehand. And the fee is usually, so it's a percentual fee, which is right now 9.405%. But we also do have a minimum fee since some costs incurred to us, mainly due to the legal professionals that we hire for this job. And the minimum fee is usually 899 euros. But right now we are having a discount, which brings it down to 854 euros. And excuse me, I think there's some cents.
Usually there's a fixed fees, and right now you have a promotion. The numbers can always change. So I'll put a link first. You use the first link to get any discounts. I'll
Keep it updated.
provide all of the details in the first link. And I'll also put pinned comment regarding the latest amounts that come in towards the fees. So that way people can always get the latest information.
Perfect. Thank you. And also there's also not only a minimum fee, but also maximum fee. Because of course it doesn't.
The contributions vary depending on how much you contribute.
Yes. So we also want to be fair on this. And the maximum fee, it's also varies depending on the exact price at the moment. You will find the link in the description, but it's around 2,800, more or less the maximum fee.
Okay.
Yes.
I have another question. Let's say if someone leaves Germany and they haven't contributed, so they were eligible to get this amount back, and they get this with the help of Fundsback, or if they do it themselves. What if they want to come back? So would this be having a negative effect on their profile? How would it be if they already got their funds back and they're coming back to Germany?
Yes. From our experience, we don't think there is a negative. If you're asking regarding migratory issues, as far as we have looked into it, there are no negative impacts. Of course, we are also not experts or legally allowed to advise on migration. But when you're back, you will be just contributing normally to the German pension insurance. Of course, when you get a refund, You also will get an information from the German pension insurance where it stated clearly, by you getting this refund, you have opted to cancel our contractual situation. So it's counted as if you
Mm.
would have never had a contract and you will need to restart all your times.
Okay. So generally speaking, obviously for specific case, things can always change, but generally speaking, there shouldn't be a negative side effect. The only thing would be that there was no contribution ever made. So half of the part which is contributed by the employer part is never refunded. Only the contributions that you make is refunded. So if you leave Germany, you get this refund, and in the future, if you decide to come back, it is going to start from zero. You, as if you never contributed anything into the social system or the pension system, to be more specific.
Exactly. Yes. That's, yeah.
So at the end of the day, it depends on you if you want to get the funds back or not. If you want to get the funds back, scenario could be that you want to get these funds refunded to you, and then you can let it either be invested in the stock market or buy whatever you want. Let that money work for you. Or if you want, or if you think that you're going to come back to Germany, you can let it stay in the German system. And let's say if you haven't been eligible to get your pension, you can come back to Germany and then contribute more and be eligible for a pension. So at the end of the day, it depends on you and how you want your money to work for you.
Exactly. That's, yeah. That's how I would say it. Yeah.
Okay.
Getting back on your exact question, we think I would definitely say yes. Of course, if you're very busy, maybe you can wait, but at least, for example, you could get the information through Fundsback for free, and this will then allow you to know exactly how much you will get, and by this you will know how, if you're eligible, if you can count on this money later, as well as maybe you will find out, I was only missing 1 month of my German contribution to get the German pension. Maybe this then will push you to later get back to Germany. It definitely gives you a good overview of the situation, and it doesn't cost you anything. Plus, if you get this information early, and let's say you really want to have the money as soon as possible, the refund, you can then, for example, at our behalf, we have a reminder service. Then you can just subscribe, or we will have in the system, and we will reach out to you on time to make sure that you will then start the process and get it as soon as possible. Of course, you can just do it also for yourself. If you know your exact refund date, you can also just put in your calendar a reminder. Oh, there's something pension refund, and then you will not keep this, drag this out, especially since, as we discussed, the money is not working for you, it's just laying around.
So as you shared one success story that one of your clients, she got the funds back within 10 days of you applying for her. Would it be possible for you to share the highest amount probably that you have ever gotten for a client?
Sure. Those are clients that are not from a country from the second category, so a country with the Social Security treaty. That's why they're able to work a lot. Like they were able to work more than the 60 months and still get a pension refund. And actually was a female client from Ukraine, and it was around 57,000 that she got back.
Okay. And do you know for how many years did she contribute into the pension system?
I might be mistaken, but it was around 9 to 10, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That's interesting.
And if we're like, this topic's also interesting. So from our experience or cases, the usual payout amount is around 13,000.
It depends on your contributions, how much you have paid. If you are extremely high earner or low earner, I think a lot of people who generally leave Germany within the 5 years or the minimum contribution period is generally young professionals. They come to Germany, do like generally IT or software work, contribute a lot in the social system as they are usually high earners, and then they leave for another country. So probably you might also be getting those cases a lot.
Yes, and I would like to share a story that also probably will be useful to some of you guys, of the viewers. Actually, we have 2 weeks ago, a person who had similar life path that the one that you described, reached out to us and wanted to know if he's eligible, since he was from India, which India is a contracting state. So if you're over 60 months, you can only get the pension refund. And unfortunately, he was not eligible for a refund because of 2 months. So he had 62 months contribution times.
Ah,
And what was a bit, say, sad about, no, he was quite sad. So it was sad, is that the reason why this happened is that when he was a student in Germany, he was doing a mini job. And usually mini jobs, you are not contributing to the social security.
pensions.
But
Yeah.
if you want, you can get a bit deducted. He was getting 18 euros, I think, deducted.
Yeah.
And then you will at least gain some times, which if you're German, it's amazing because it will help you to grow to a higher proportion than what you're paying in with this 18 or this little amount. You will get more back for the future. But for his case, actually was negative because it prevented him from getting the refund just because he had this mini job. So if you guys are planning on leaving Germany, you're studying here, you're doing a mini job, maybe
Don't contribute.
yes, take this into account.
To the rent.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. That's an interesting point because I remember I also worked as a VEC student and there was like no contributions from my side. And then my employer asked me if I wanted to contribute. At that time, it was probably 17 euros per month. So I decided, okay, let's do that thing. So I was contributing 17 euros. So as you said, if someone is deciding or thinking of not staying in Germany for a long time, and if they are students, so it's better not to contribute those 17 or 18 euros if they want to get their pension back. But obviously, it depends on you and what situation you are in the future. So this is an important point that you should always keep in mind. So the one last question I have is, if someone is deciding to leave Germany, how far in advance should they generally decide to start preparing for the documentation for deregistration and for the refund process?
Yes, for the registration, around a month to provide you with enough time. Mainly, let's say the main topic there is to get the Bürgeramt appointment. You have to find the sweet spot of 7 days. You're not supposed to do it earlier. Plus, this will help you to get all of the rest as well done. Although one thing, if you're having some insurances that have a longer cancellation time, you might, of course, you should take this into account. So you don't have to pay them even though you left Germany. And regarding the funds back, the refund from Germany, it should be fine if you just contact us or you contact the German pension insurance when you have left Germany just some weeks afterwards. Then, since as mentioned, you have anyway 2 years of waiting period. So if you contact us or them at this time, you should have enough time to decide and to prepare accordingly if you want to proceed with obtaining your pension refund.
As I said, I'll put a link to any discounts that are being offered by Fundsback in the first comment and the first link in the description. Make sure to use this link to get any discounts that Fundsback is offering at that time. And thanks, Camilo, for joining. If you have any final words, please don't hesitate.
Thank you very much for the invitation and for having the chance. I've been following your channel some time now since we started to make a contract, and I see you do really great content for people, for expats. So I hope, of course, that my input was valuable to your viewers. And
absolutely, it is a very interesting topic. Even though like most of my content is for people coming to Germany, but I usually get a lot of interest from people who have already left Germany and aren't sure about this thing, this pension back. And as I said, I had a total misconception about just this 60 months, but it's not that simple process. There are many layers as to everything in life. So I think we got a lot of valuable information from you. And if someone is wanting to get their funds back and don't want to get into the hassle of the German bureaucracy system, they can definitely contact you once they have decided to get their funds back with the help of a company.
Exactly. I would even say they can contact us just to get checked, and then they can decide with this information if they want to take it by themselves. Because, of course, if you're just getting 200 euros back, probably it's not worth writing the German pension insurance from.
If it makes sense or not.
So we will tell you if it makes sense. And then, of course, if you go with us, we're happy. If no, it's also fine. Also, one thing, guys, if you want, through our website, you can book a meeting with me or one of my colleagues. We, of course, will be happy to offer you some further advice depending on your case, and which is then more tailored, of course, than a video.
As you heard it, if you are unsure about this thing, about getting your funds back, you can always contact Camilo and Funds Back and book a free appointment with them.
Exactly.
So thanks for watching. Bleib gesund, and I'll see you in one of these videos.